This is Support is Sexy, episode 139, with Keisha Carter, creator of KZ Noel Jewelry. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here because it just would not be the same without you. So today I am excited and a little bit biased to welcome Keisha Carter. And I say biased because Keisha is a fellow Hamptonian who attended Hampton University the same time I did. In fact, I believe we are in the same class, right, Keisha? Yes, we're in the same class. I won't say what year that was. But Keisha is also here to share her story with us about how she built her successful jewelry line, KZ Noel Jewelry. It is a line that she created herself. She creates the pieces herself. Well, now she has craftsmen who work with her or artisans who work with her, but she created this line. I love her story about how she started with her inner circle and how it expanded from there and how she's looking for more and more partnerships and how it really, you know the saying, it takes a village, or as we say, support is sexy. So Keisha is really an example of that. And she talks about how she built her line, how, at least I say, she was determined to shine, and how she did not accept no as an answer throughout the process, which I think is very important no matter what you're creating. So on this episode with Keisha, you'll learn why you must listen to your inner voice. Also, as we said, start within your inner circle. Keisha's top tips for getting your designs in retailers. So if you're a jewelry designer or even a fashion designer, you definitely want to hear this. Why you should set your bar higher when it comes to your goal. What you need to know about trunk shows and why they are a key event for your business as a designer. How to get your brand in front of celebrities. Like it or not, when a celebrity wears your piece, people pay attention. It's just the world we live in. So Keisha has some tips about that. Also, the simple way you can find out how to get your products featured in a gifting suite during times, especially times like this, if you're listening to it in real time, award season. All the celebrities are going to the gifting suites. All the stylists are going to the gifting suites. So Keisha has a simple tip about that. Also, the importance of partnerships. How to know when it's time to bring in support. You go so long by yourself, but at a point, you need to bring in some kind of support. Keisha also tells us why, if you're a designer, you should start an Instagram account for your brand now. In fact, right now. Get it started. 0 followers, it doesn't matter. If you're thinking about launching a line or you want to get more attention behind it and that kind of thing, or you want to get it into retailers, have social media already set up and going. Start now. And lastly, Keisha talks about why no just means not right now, because she does not accept no. And I'm so happy again to have Keisha here to share her story with us and her tips, advice, and resources, especially for people who are interested in design, whether that's jewelry, fashion, or otherwise. So to get more information from Keisha and to see the resources that she mentioned, we will have links, as you know, at supportissexypodcast.com. Just search Keisha, Keisha, and you'll see all the notes there, as well as where to visit her and where to follow her. All right, so without further ado, I know you're going to enjoy this. Keisha Carter. So Keisha, thank you so much for joining me for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here, fellow Hamptonian.
Yes, it's so wonderful to get connected with you. And I really appreciate you taking time out to want to talk to me.
Absolutely. So first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
You know, it's so interesting that I didn't know I was in love with it, but I had always been in love with it. For years, I always wanted to find a different way than just the 9 to 5, going somewhere, being there and leaving, because I felt it wasn't really my energy and my spirit. I'm very much of a free spirit, and I wanted to find a way for myself that I was able to do what I love, work the hours I wanted, and make decisions for myself. And I really realized I needed that more than anything after 17 years of being in a private school environment, and of course needed to be there a certain time of day and not being able to make all the choices and decisions that I wanted to make. I said, you know what, I'm really ready to go off and do something that I really love and that I'm passionate about, and that's something either in the arts or in fashion. So jewelry ended up being my niche and where I end up falling in love with jewelry, and that's my new thing.
Now, when we both went to Hampton together, as we mentioned. Yay, Hampton!
Yay, Hampton!
Did you know at that time though that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or as you said, go into jewelry design or fashion or that kind of thing, or did you think you'd take another path professionally?
I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. However, I took the safe route. Mm-hmm. And the safe route was going into, a structured work environment, knowing exactly what your, monthly salary would be, how many days you have off, what your retirement situation would look like. Mm-hmm. So I went the safe route for a very long time, but still had a yearning to want to create something and do something on my own, and being hopeful and prayerful that people would accept it and embrace it.
Now, you grew up in Chicago, right?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. Chicago girl. Now, what was a young Keisha like?
A young Keisha is so funny. I was thinking about this a couple days ago and talking to my mom about this. It's so amazing that growing up as children, you never really know that you're learning and listening and watching the movements of your parents. Mm-hmm. as much as we are. So I grew up in a household, a very, very artistic household. My dad was in music. My mother was a trained thespian. However, she never went into theater. So it was a very colorful house with music and art, and their friends were very active in the arts community. My mom loved jewelry. She was a jewelry fanatic. So on Saturdays, when most children were going to the roller skating rink, I was going to auctions and or antique stores to help my mom and watch my mom purchase jewelry. So for many years, as I grumbled, Mom, I want to go roller skating, I started to find I had a love for it, because every time we went somewhere to purchase a new piece for her, it was an educational process for her. She talked about the stone and what part of the world it was from. And then we talked about the people that lived there and what language they might have spoken. So just her purchasing jewelry became such an educational component to my life that I didn't realize that it was going to become my gift later in life. Every time my mother purchased a piece, I would always tell her she should change it in some facet. Like, Mommy, you should change this pin to become a brooch. It should, I would always tell her a brooch to become a pendant.
Right.
And slowly but surely, I finally was able to save a little money and went to my first auction with my mom with the money I had saved for my birthday or Christmas. And I purchased an amethyst ring. I was so excited about this amethyst ring. I got it sized to fit me, went to school on that Monday and wore it. And just to date myself, my nun told my mother that I could no longer wear the ring because it was interfering with my handwriting classes. That just shows you.
Exactly, which I don't even think kids take anymore, right?
I don't think they do. I was truly crushed because this was something I had worked hard to purchase on my own. So I thought about it. I said, Mom, can you take me to your craftsman? And so she said, okay. Now, mind you, I'm in second grade.
I was going to say, how old were you?
Second grade. So I was probably 8 years old. Mm-hmm. And she took me to her craftsman. And I, with this craftsman, designed my ring into a pendant and was able to wear it underneath my school uniform. So no longer that none could say it was interrupting or, being a bother with my handwriting class. So that was my first design that I worked with a craftsman when I was 8 years old to make my amethyst ring into a pendant. That I still have it today. That
was going to be my next question. Do you still have it? That's amazing. That's such a great story about, one, of course, your love of design and also your unwillingness to give up. Mm-hmm. It's just not, I'm not going to accept no for an answer here. There's a way, figuring out a way to still have both and, as they say. I love that. I love
You're
that.
Right.
What would you say then were some of your greatest influences growing up?
My greatest influence truly were my mom and her beautiful girlfriends. They really took pride in being ladies. I think it's so interesting. It's a different type of lady today. They were very much into, wearing gloves sometimes at teas or wearing hats or beautiful furs and the brocade fabrics. I mean, they were truly ladies of their time. And of course, I call my mom and her girlfriends. They reminded me of the Dynasty cast because it was time for them to roll out the house. Dominique Devereaux and Alexis Carrington had nothing on these beautiful ladies.
Right. Now, where's your mom originally from?
She's originally from Florida.
Okay, so it's a Southern charm kind of thing.
I think so, yes, with a little bit of a little city oomph to it.
A little city swag.
Yes.
Do you feel like you inherited that from her as well? Just this love of all things beautiful?
Yeah, I definitely do. But not only things that are materialistically beautiful, I also love nature and, just seeing the beauty in the movement of the clouds and the sky and, how beautiful the leaves sway in the wind. So it's just not only enjoying the material things of beauty, but also the beauty in nature.
And travel also influences your designs greatly too, right?
Most definitely. My first line was called Out of Asia, and it was born because I had stumbled on a beautiful pearl market in Shanghai and started designing pieces in this pearl market. And while there, I found antique stores and found antique jade and had them do a little bit of carving to this jade to make into beautiful necklaces with the pearls. So my travel truly has so much to do with my design. My second collection was very interesting. I was flying over these Alps of Switzerland, and the snow-capped mountains were so amazing that it reminded me of quartz. So my second collection was based on a lot of quartz crystal that were very uncut and jagged, so they were in their natural state because it was reminiscent of the Swiss Alps.
What was the second line called?
The second line was called Rockstar.
Ooh.
And it really embodied, I think, who we are as women. We are everything. We're the nurturers, we're the friends, we're the mothers, we're, a lot of times the sole provider. And to do all of those things, we truly become a rock star in my thought process. So that collection had angel wings and skulls, and they were all in black diamonds.
Oh, I love it. Now, what would you say do you have an idea of a design in mind and then you create the piece, or do you see whatever the stone is or the material is and then the idea for the design comes to you?
Actually, it's a combination of both. That's a wonderful question. It's actually a combination of both. Sometimes when I'm outsourcing and finding stones, I'll see a stone that looks so amazing or a natural mineral that's so amazing, and I decide how I can design around it. And then other times it's, I just may be laying at the beach and start thinking about designing or what the next collection could be. So it's a combination of both.
Mm-hmm. How do you source the materials? I know, as we said, it's influenced very much by your travels, but then where do you go to get these different materials that you use?
So it's depending on what that collection is. If it's mostly a natural raw material, I will go to Tucson in Arizona. They have a big show every year with natural stones. Mm-hmm. And then I do sourcing in Shanghai and in Jaipur, India.
What's the big show in Tucson, in case listeners are interested in finding? Is it open to everyone, or is it something that's particularly for designers in the industry?
It's particular for the trade. So okay. Sadly, everyone could not go, but it is amazing. It's called JOGS, J-O-G-S, Jewelry Show, J-O-G-S, okay. Jewelry Show. It's in Tucson, Arizona. Okay. And it's twice a year.
All right. I'll see if I can link to it so this way if people at least want to find out about it, they can.
Most definitely.
Now, tell me, when you, as we mentioned after Hampton, you were going down the quote-unquote safe route. What were you doing at that time at first? What was the job?
I was in education, and I started teaching 3-year-olds, which was so sweet. I had the best time because I felt like, we could just all play together, which was so fun. Right. And then I started teaching Spanish for some time because I had a small stint that I was living in Barcelona, so I started teaching Spanish. And then after that, I was always teaching here in Atlanta. The head of school came and talked to me a little bit about how I could help work with diversity in private schools. Mm-hmm. So I ended up being the director of multiculturalism, which is director of diversity, to help the students of color that are at our school to feel like they had a voice and to help their parents navigate the private school sector. And through that, it really launched into something so much bigger than that. A colleague of mine in another school we started the first ever Diversity Directors Association for all private schools in Atlanta. So it really ended up metamorphosizing into something so beautiful that we were able to support students of color throughout all of the private schools in Atlanta.
Do you still do any work in education today, or are you primarily focused on your jewelry line?
I'm totally focused on my jewelry line. However, some of the diversity directors at the school, my old colleagues, will still call me to say, you know, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about this speaker coming in to talk to the parents? So it's nice to still have some open dialogue, because there's so many great and important conversations to be had with the students and the parents.
Right, absolutely. So at what point then in your journey did you say, now is the time? I think that's something that a lot of us think about as entrepreneurs, whether we go fully into it and do it full time, or we're just starting to create that thing that we've always wanted to create. What was the moment for you?
I think it's important for us to listen to our inner voice. Our inner voice will tell you when it's time. You know when it's time for you to do something else and you're ready to do something else. You may not, act on it the first time you hear your inner voice saying, you know what, I know you're ready to do something different, but it's important to listen to it and be in touch and in tune with listening to the inner voice. So I started the line, I knew I was ready to do something else, and I started the line, and it took me 2.5 years until when I left my occupation education, before I left and started the jewelry full time. So I'm not telling people just to, hear your inner voice today and quit your job tomorrow and figure out what you're going to do.
Right.
It takes time to do this, and it's important to do it as safely as possible, so you don't get yourself in a situation that you may regret.
So what was the first step that you took then once you made that decision to make the move?
My first decision was to have a great, almost like a focus group, and have a great conversation with my friends who became my focus group. I call them my village. They were my rock star group of friends, I must say. And I started talking with them about, I'm really interested in starting a line of jewelry. And at that time I was, making pieces for myself, and people were asking, who is this? I love this. Even my friends, I didn't even tell them I was starting a line of jewelry at that point. I was just wearing things, and they were asking, I love this necklace. Where can I find it? And that's when I really started thinking, I have something here, and I really should, work a little harder on it. And then talk with my network of friends to see, would you be able to support me? Would you be able to, put a good word in with me? Or would you be able to host a trunk show for me to let people know that I've started a line of jewelry, and just to get some feedback from other people?
That's so smart to start within your circle. I think so many of us sometimes forget. Well, I think people are doing it more and more now, at least the people I talk to, certainly. But at first, we try to go out into the world, so to speak, at first, instead of just thinking, let me start within my circle and see. And hopefully you have people in your circle who will give you some good feedback either way. But even starting from, I think, another powerful part of you saying, hey, can you connect me to someone? Can you support me in this way? Will you host a trunk show, come to a trunk show, and that kind of thing too. We don't think, some of us don't want to ask for support. That's what this show is all about. Support is sexy, and start at home.
Support is sexy. And you know what? It is very challenging to reach out and ask for assistance. But if you really think about it, and I have to say this to myself all the time, if you really think about it, the worst thing that someone can say to you is no. And that's not crushing. Right. That's not crushing, because that person may say no, but the next person may not say no. So no is not the worst thing we can ever hear in our lives, especially when we're starting a business.
I agree. And also another thing is, though, I believe most people, especially within your circle, but even other people, most people want to help.
That's true.
Or figure out a way to help. And I think, too, another thing I encourage people to do, if someone does say no, if you have an opportunity, ask them why. Maybe it's some kind of feedback. They could say, oh, well, these pieces don't work because of this, or we're not accepted. It might, because sometimes I think we make up a story and the no becomes so much bigger than it is. And it might just simply be, oh, because of scheduling, something that has nothing to do with you.
True. Very true.
Or there might be some feedback there that we can use. Excellent. So what would you say then that what would you say has been key for you, I should say, because your line is sold in fine jewelry retailers, and I know you've done a lot of work or collaborations with Neiman Marcus. What was the step for you in moving from creating a line for yourself pieces for yourself and your friends to transitioning to now your pieces are sold in stores?
It's so interesting. The target shifted so quickly. Because I initially, when I first started, I said, at that time we were expecting twins when I was starting a line of jewelry. And
wow.
my friends were so amazing to not say to me, are you crazy? You have twins on the way. How are you going to do this? They said, support you, go for it. So first of all, I applaud and thank my friends for that. But secondly, when I first started, I said, if I can get into 5 stores, I'll be happy. And initially I set my bar lower than I should have. And I hadn't reached any stores yet. This was just me mentally thinking about it. And then I started reading Vogue and Elle and enjoying, looking at their spreads, reading about different smaller boutiques I was not knowledgeable about, writing them down. And I started sending them my line sheets. And I said, you know what? I need to set the bar high. Because if you start high and you reach for the moon, if you don't reach the moon, you're still in the stars, which is amazing.
Right.
So I set the bar high, and I always would reach out to boutiques and or stores that were extremely notable and that sold clothing and had designers that, I truly admired and appreciated. And so that's how it really started. And I started with smaller boutiques, and through those smaller boutiques, I gained momentum with the larger big box store, giving an eye, a nod in my direction. That's Neiman Marcus.
That's amazing. So what was it like the moment you got into your first store? Actually, let's go back a little bit. What is it like when you, for people listening who are jewelry designers or interested, when you pitch a store, you have your line sheet, but what do you say? Just, this is my line, or do you find out who the buyer is and that kind of thing? What's the process, or what was the process for you?
So I started locally. In Atlanta. Some jewelry designers choose to start outside of their circle. I think it's so smart to start right where you are at home, where you shop. Even if you don't shop there, let yourself become familiar, become a window shopper there, so at least they know your face, where your items, if you're a clothing designer, where your clothing, if you're a jewelry designer, where your jewelry, just become a little visible to them so they kind of know your familiar, friendly face. And maybe after the second visit, then you start discussing, I'm a jewelry designer, I'm a fashion designer. So that's how I initially started. I was just going door to door to different boutiques here that I truly loved in Atlanta. And from there, they started asking, well, who do you have on? And I said, well, it's my line. I'd love to talk to you about it. And of course, they weren't available to talk that day. I'll schedule an appointment and go back and then bring them pieces. Instead of just a line sheet, bring them at least, 15 pieces for them to look at.
Right.
And that's how it truly started here, grassroots in Atlanta. From there, I collaborated with a sales rep in New York for a bit. And I felt like that wasn't giving me enough exposure. And then I met a fantastic clothing designer named Hilton Hollis in New York. And he appreciated my work as much as I appreciated his. And he invited me to come to a trade show in New York called Pronto. And through Pronto, that's when I was at Market, and I ended up meeting more stores that were interested in carrying my line at Pronto.
Wow. So then at what point then did you get in touch with Neiman Marcus, or how did they discover your work? Was that journey because of being in those smaller stores at first?
Interestingly enough, Neiman Marcus all started because of my village, that village we talked about earlier. So some of my friends and or other ladies that purchased my jewelry through trunk shows were just shoppers in Neiman Marcus, just being a customer. And the jewelry department manager asked a woman, and to this day, I don't know who this woman is. And she said, I love this necklace. Who is the designer? And she said, it's KZ Noel. I purchased it at a trunk show. And so they did not realize that KZ Noel was the same Keisha that comes and, shops in the shoe department or
right.
They're buying things for her children. And so one day I approached them and said, I've started a line of jewelry. And they said, what's it called? I said, KZ Noel. And immediately their eyes lit up and said, we've been hearing about this. We didn't know that was you. When can we have a meeting? And it was wonderful. And that's how it started.
Oh, I love that. Well, it was funny. I just did an episode that I published yesterday about this idea of momentum, and your pieces, your design, your line had momentum without you even knowing at that point. I talk about that sort of things. People start seeing it and you keep going and be consistent. But then also you going out and asking and saying, hey, I have this line. If you hadn't done that, who knows how long it might have taken for them to discover that it was you.
That's very true. Yeah.
I love that. That's great. Now, your pieces are what many, at least what I would consider, and everyone, we're going to have links to Keisha's website, kznoel.com. You have to go look at the pieces.
Oh.
But I would say they're considered statement pieces. Would you agree that a lot of them are?
Yes, I would agree. And then we do have a smaller line that I call our smaller sparkles, which sit right on your collarbone. They have like small pave diamonds. So it's a smaller look that you can, wear every day. Some of my sparkles, honestly, I'll have on for 2 months, shower and everything, and never take them off.
I love it. Now, what would you say, though, overall, with both of the lines, the bigger pieces and the smaller ones, what statement are women who wear your jewelry making, or what would you like them to make?
I think they're making a statement that, I'm a bad girl. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to conquer the world. I am comfortable in my skin. And even if I'm not, I'm going to put on this rock star jewelry and I'm going to fake it till I make it until I can get my deal done, whatever I need to get done.
Right.
But I think that there are definitely women who may want to feel like they have a travel lifestyle because all of the pieces are curated and collected all over the world. So it feels like you're a woman of the world when you're wearing my pieces.
Do you do lines for a limited amount of time, or are there pieces in the collection that will be there forever?
I only have a few pieces that will be there forever. Most of them are limited because the majority of my pieces are one of a kind. Mm-hmm. Because it's hard to resource beautiful stones, time after time again. So a lot of times, a person will come back to me and say, well, I saw this at a trunk show. I saw this online. I love it. I like it. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, love. It's one of a kind. So if you don't snap it up when you see it,
right,
sadly, it's hard to recreate it.
That's good. It creates a sense of urgency, too.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Now, you've mentioned trunk shows a few times. Can you tell our listeners what a trunk show is and how that's been important to your business?
Yes, a trunk show is actually so important for stores. It's very great for the designer because you're able to be in front of the customer and be able to get customer feedback. And I truly love to be on site for my trunk shows. Some designers choose not to be. I really like to be at the trunk shows because I'm able to hear what the customer likes, mm-hmm. how it looks and feels on different customers and clients. So I really love the trunk show. So when you go into the store, you'll bring, a larger portion of jewelry than they would maybe normally carry in their store of your work. And the store will invite their clients to come meet the designer and shop a large collection of the designer's jewelry that day.
And how do you go about organizing a trunk show? Is that something where you'd have to have a connection at the store, or do you suggest people sort of talk to, as you said, boutiques in their area, or does it even have to be in a store? Where can someone host a trunk show?
Yes, some people can host trunk shows at their homes if they'd like to, and invite their smaller network, which are always beautiful and intimate to have trunk shows at someone's home. Or also reaching out to a store and, showing your collection to that store and then asking the store if they're not 100% ready to carry your line outright. Sometimes a good way to start is with a trunk show to say, let's just see what type of foot traffic we get the trunk show in your store, the way your customers react to our merchandise. And sometimes that's a way to get your foot in the door. A trunk show sometimes will get your foot in the door for the store to carry your collection full time.
Do you suggest that people start with a certain number of pieces in the beginning when they're first starting out, or do you suggest a full-on collection so that people get a sense of your work? Or does it vary depending on what people are creating?
It really varies depending on what people are creating, mm-hmm. because you also need to test the market first, to make sure that the market is receptive to what you're designing, because, it can be challenging to have a huge collection and you have 300 pieces that you financially paid for precious stones and or non-precious stones, and that there's no need for your designs right at that time. So it's important to kind of test the market a bit, and that's why it's great to get in front of people wearing the pieces, have some pieces on people to see what society is saying about your pieces. Just because they're saying it may not be, they may not love this collection doesn't mean you're not a great designer. Right. It just might not be that, it might not have been your time for that design right now.
Mm-hmm. And I know celebrities, people like Nicole Ari Parker have worn your pieces. Talk to us a little bit about, one, getting your designs in front of celebrities or getting them to be interested in them, and then what that does for someone's business.
Brand wise, it's really huge because it's so interesting that you can sell very well at trunk shows at different boutiques, but until you have a celebrity wearing your piece, it almost validates you, which is so interesting. But it's I'm humbled by it and I'm thankful for it. But I think it's so interesting that when a celebrity wears it, it's really okaying the product.
Right.
There's different ways to get your pieces in front of celebrities. One is if any celebrity stylists, you can either reach out to them via Instagram if you're following them, and private message them, send them images of what you have. And sometimes they'll say, okay, well, send me 3 or 4 of them. And you're on a wish and a prayer that your pieces actually get placed on their client. Mm-hmm. That's one way. There's also different ways in California during award season, which we're in right now. They have different type of gifting suite opportunities where you could go into a gifting suite with other designers. And at that time, different stylists for different celebrities and or the celebrities themselves will come through the gifting suites and are able to select product for free for them. And the trade-off is that they will wear the product.
Mm-hmm. Now, how does one get involved with the gifting suite?
It's interesting. You would need, the best way to do is actually you can just Google gifting suites Los Angeles, and there's so many different companies that will assist you in getting into gifting suites.
That's such good advice, Keisha. I had no idea. I honestly did not know how that worked. I knew about gifts certainly at all of these award shows and different events and all of that stuff, but had no idea what the process was. You can just Google it.
Yeah, you Google it and look into it and get started. I guess you have to do a bit of research to make sure that, those companies are reputable and
right.
that, that they do have stylists and or celebrities coming through. But that's the best way to start. For me, Google is the modern day dictionary, needless to say, right. Or encyclopedia, excuse me. And it's a wealth of information, but you definitely need to make sure that you're, verifying that everything is valid.
What would you say has been the most challenging part of your journey as an entrepreneur with either creating this line or growing the business?
My greatest challenge is actually my greatest blessing. And it's that it's been so rapid in the growth that at times I felt it was hard to keep up with and manage. Mm-hmm. But now I'm at the point that I have an infrastructure to assist me in designing and product placement and helping me manage stores. So that's been a wealth of help. But it's been such a blessing. This journey has been incredible, and it's happened much quicker than I could ever expect. And it's so interesting when we think about success, when people talk about success and what is that? It's something that you learn every day, actually. Like, I don't feel like, someone said to me, you're so successful. No, actually, every day I'm working on some way to be successful. And, success, that target changes if you really think about it. The target of what you call success changes a lot. So initially in our conversation, I talked about what I thought success was, and that was to be in 5 small stores. And now I've surpassed that. So the thought of what success is, the target changes with every new store, every new collection. It kind of changes.
Right. And what would you say has been, at least for you up until this point, because as you said, the target continues to change, a key part of your success or your continuing success?
I truly think it's my this village that has supported me in Atlanta and have been the most gracious cheerleaders, for lack of a better word. And have been in my corner when I'm saying, oh my God, am I doing too much? What should I be doing next? And they're like, oh no, I need you to talk to my girlfriend in New York, or have you talked to such and such in Dallas, or did you know? And I'm thinking like, oh, so I really must say it's been the friendships that I have and their friends supporting it and saying and cheerleading and saying, you can do this, keep going, which is I'm so thankful for.
What was the point that you realized you had sort of reached a tipping point, so to speak? So when you felt like, okay, this is really working and it's growing and it's getting bigger and I need to put things in place. And I ask that because of, I think for a lot of us, sometimes we get to that point and either it frightens us so much or we get completely overwhelmed or we don't realize that's the point we need to bring in help. But what was it like for you?
It got to the point when I realized I had more stores than product, and the stores were selling quicker than I could manufacture and produce the items for them.
Were you doing it yourself at this time?
No, I only had, at that time I had 2 craftsmen. I have 4 now.
Okay.
I have 4 craftsmen now. And I was attracting new accounts. However, it was challenging for me to have product for those new accounts. Mm-hmm. But I was not going to say no, because who says no?
Right, exactly.
So I had to make it work. And, I was definitely that duck that looked very calm on top of the water, but underneath
their feet were just going.
Oh, they were pedaling and trying their hardest. So I think that that's the best way to answer your question.
Oh my goodness! Now, when you got the other artisans, is that what made a difference for you in bringing in that support, or did you need support in other ways too within your business, otherwise, an assistant or that kind of thing?
Yes, the artisans was life changing, and adding an assistant that helps with the day-to-day, calls from stores, checking in with stores to see, what their inventory looks like, all of those things was a life changer. Because to think about designing, this is what every new designer does. We all do this. Right. Designing, doing the back office paperwork, billing, sourcing, sales, all the above, and still needing to be, out in the community talking about your product. Every new designer does that. But it got to the point that was becoming a lot for me. So I was able to have someone help me, to manage all the store accounts, which was huge for me.
What is your vision for KZ Noel as you move forward? Because it's been how many years now? 5 years?
It's been almost 5 years.
Okay. What's your vision?
My vision, it's interesting. I think every designer's vision is to be able to, kind of, play in the waters of other areas of fashion. Like, I truly love Tracy Reese, the African-American designer. As I recall, she's out of Detroit. She's a clothing designer, but now, I happen to notice now she's, designing plates with Lenox, China. I'm like, how amazing is that? So to really to broaden the scope of the line and to truly make it a lifestyle brand, I recently have collaborated with a beautiful handbag designer named Mel Bateri, and we have a beautiful bag called the Ellis that we've collaborated, and it's a beautiful python tote, and that I designed and she had manufactured in Spain. And the accent in the tote has a little bit of diamond balls just for a little bit of the KZ Noel piece to it. So, I really like to continue broadening and branching. At some point in life, I would love to figure out a way to collaborate with an interior designer, because interior design, hardware, and jewelry really could meet so beautifully and mesh so beautifully. Using precious stones as hardware for cabinet pulls could be incredible.
Ah, that's amazing. Hopefully someone will hear this. I was actually thinking about Robin Wilson. I don't know if you know her, the interior designer.
Yes.
You have to connect the two of you. She, honestly, before you even said that was in my mind. You sort of remind me of her as far as your work and your vision and the kind of things that you're doing. So we'll have to make that connection.
I would love it.
Excellent. So speaking of partnerships then, how important has that been, and how did you go about this particular partnership coming together?
Well, I've been a fan of Mel's handbags here in Atlanta. She's a local designer. I've been a fan of her work. And one day I happened to see her at a luncheon, and we were talking, and I said, I've been thinking about this beautiful tote that is so necessary, because I noticed we spent a lot of time in Miami, my family and I. And whenever at the beach, if you have a beautiful bag and it sits in the sand, that bottom of the bag is always damaged.
Right.
I said, we need some type of bag that has espadrille on the bottom that sits in the sand and has no issues. Espadrille can absorb sand with no problem. And I start talking to her about that, and her eyes just came alive, and she's like, you've designed the best bag. She's like, let me just, do the true designing part, because she's a handbag designer. And so she mocked it up and sent it to me, and I was like, this is exactly what I was thinking. It was just a beautiful collaboration. So we're launching that in the spring, And we have some samples now that people are able to see on her website, which is melbotero.com, melbotero.com.
melbotero.com.
Yes.
Excellent. I'll make sure I have links to that for everyone listening. That's fantastic. I can't wait. I think I saw a picture of that maybe on your Instagram or somewhere. There was a tag or something like that.
Yes, that's the bag.
That's the bag. Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what would you say? Well, first of all, one thing I wanted to ask you, I have a note here, resources. For anyone listening, what would you say have been the key resources, whether it's a particular trade show designers should check out or books, anything that's been really helpful for you in your journey? Are there 3 things that you can think of that people should make sure to check out in addition to Googling and doing the research? Yeah,
most definitely. There is a JIS show that is twice a year in Miami. It's usually in the winter and fall, which is a wealth of information because they host educational seminars. They'll have someone there to talk about welding and diamond setting, et cetera, et cetera. And then you also can purchase fine stones while you're there at that show. So it's a wealth of information.
Okay. Is there another one that you can think of, a book or anything like that that's been a great resource for you?
Actually, I really love, Cartier has this incredible book. I think it's when they turned maybe on their 100th year anniversary, they published a book. And just to hear the story of the journey of a craftsman, I think it's important to understand the history of jewelry making. So you get a better understanding of where we are today, how technology has changed so drastically that you're able to put everything, on the computer and design on a computer, and you're not, only using molds. Although I'm really old school, I actually still love molds. I do everything with a mold, and I don't do anything that much with the computer.
Do you have someone, though, who does do things with the computer, or you sort of skip that step altogether?
Yes, I do. One of my craftsmen is incredible with the computer, and he puts things on CAD for me. But I really love the mold. It's nothing like the texture and feeling it in your hands. And maybe that just makes me a little old fashioned, but I think that makes it a little special also for my collection.
It's classic. That's what I feel like. It sounds like it's classic. What would you say would be something that you wish you knew about getting into the jewelry design business, or something that you wish someone had told you or shared with you, or your biggest lesson in getting in the business?
Let's see. What I really wish someone could have talked to me a bit more about marketing, because that's not my expertise, and it never has been my expertise. So but now I think I've got a better grasp of it, and I didn't realize how important 4 years ago social media was going to be just for my industry. Just to give you an example, I went on a West Coast sweep probably 4 years ago, just to start talking about the line, showing different boutiques my collection. And they were actually, all these stores were in California. And every single store I visited, they asked me how many followers I had on Instagram.
Wow.
At that point, I didn't even have an Instagram account for KZ Noel. And I immediately said, well, my people are working on that. My people was me, because I was the only person working at that time.
You got to do it.
So, and each of them told me when I had a certain amount of followers to get back to them. They did love the collection. They loved the work, but they were interested in what other people thought about it through social media, which was huge to me. That was really interesting to me.
It's such groupthink. I just think, sort of waiting for everyone else to be literally and figuratively following before you sign on with something.
Yes. So that was interesting. So after I got my Instagram up, and we start rock and rolling and, putting pictures, posting pictures and people liking them and commenting, then I was able to circle back to some of those stores, and they were like, oh yes, we'd love to carry you.
Really? And it was really about social media. Never mind, they love the pieces.
Only about social media. It was shocking to me.
I know, because well, we won't try to figure that out. We could talk about that later. Because what would be the reason? It's not like, oh, this is definitely going to sell because it got Instagram likes. Or maybe that is, I don't know.
Maybe.
Back
to what I was saying. I wish I would have known more about marketing. And I'm sure all of the students now and in undergrad are learning all about these incredible marketing strategies that they're going to have to share with, everyone. I'm looking forward to learning more.
What was the magical number? You said it was a number that kept coming up that they said you needed to be to?
No, they didn't ask them they didn't say exactly how many follows I needed. They just said, we need to know that you're heavily followed.
I see. Heavily followed. Got it. What would you say entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman?
It's taught me that I love to move in my own space. And I love to be able to make decisions and to be able to learn from my failures. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's really just you making the decisions. And if you've done something wrong or you've messed up and something didn't go well, it's for me to be able to internalize that and say, you know what, I didn't do great this time. How can I pick myself up? How can I change the situation, make it better? So I really like that it's let me learn so much more about myself. Like I always thought I was a person that was a strong person, a positive person, but it's let me see that, with this, I feel like I can conquer so many things, and now I'm trying to tell some of my friends who will tell me, I've always wanted to start this. I've always wanted to start that. And I'm like, well, let's do it. What can I do to help you? And I'm like going online and Googling the different manufacturers to help them try to figure out if you want to make, say, for instance, you want to make gloves. How can I help you figure out making gloves? Let's have a trunk show for gloves. So it's so wonderful to now see myself wanting and yearning to help other women trying to be entrepreneurs. It's a great place to be, and it's a fun place to be, and I'm enjoying the road. I'm enjoying the journey. The waves sometimes are high and the lows are sometimes lows, but when you go to bed at night and you know that this is something you've worked on and you've put your heart and soul on it, you sleep peacefully.
That's right. Now, in closing, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Only one person?
One person.
Oh, that's so hard. It would be my husband. He really was the diamond in this whole situation. When I said to him, I was thinking about starting Elayne, and he said, I don't know what's taking you so long. You should. He said, you're so talented. Everything you wear, design, people love. And he said, I'm here to support you 100% in whatever facet that is. God bless my husband. Sometimes I've had him being the package department. He's packing things for me and shipping them out. I've had him do a little bit of everything. So he has been truly my rock in this. And there's times I've had to go on the road and, travel, and we had very young children. And he's like, just go. They're fine. You go. You do what you need to do. And my mother's been a wealth of support also helping with the children.
I love it. Now tell us how we can support you. Before you do, though, I will say, I have to say this. I want to connect you also with Tracy Matthews. She's also a jewelry designer. I don't know if you love her. And she has a great organization or support for jewelry designers called Flourish and Thrive. So for everyone,
fantastic.
Yes, listening, I'll have a link to that. But for you, Keisha, I'm going to connect you to as well. But tell everyone outside of that how we can support you, your website, social media, of course, and anything else you want us to know about.
Yes, you can support me by visiting or telling your friends about our website, which is kznoel.com, the letter K like kite, Z like zebra, Noel, Noel.com. And follow us on Instagram, which is at KZ Noel, and definitely follow us also on Facebook. And on all social media platforms, you'll see when we have new trunk shows coming up in different parts of the country. Just share that with your friends. If you have any friends or family in that area, tell them to come out. Sometimes stores just don't want to see sales in trunk show sales. They also want to see foot traffic, because they know sometimes at foot traffic, you may not come in to purchase a necklace or a bracelet of mine, but you may come in another day to buy a lipstick because this is your first time coming to that store. So foot traffic is also important. So come out and support if you can.
Excellent. Now, what would you say is a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners before you go?
Don't ever take no personally. There is no true no's in the world. Sometimes it's not a good time. It's not right now. Work on what is important to you And if someone says no, in your mind, just say that means not right now. I don't believe there's no true no in my vocabulary, to be quite honest. I keep going. I keep going. So just keep going and pushing through. All you can do is push through and do one day at a time. It's something you're passionate about and something that feeds your soul. Just keep pushing through one day at a time.
One day at a time. Keisha, thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here. I'm so proud of you pursuing
Thank you.
Yes, what you've created. The pieces are beautiful, and also just what you've created with your business and the spirit behind it and all of that. I just am very proud to see you continue to shine.
Thank you so very much. I'm so happy to talk with you and spend time with you. And welcome to Atlanta.
Thank you. Absolutely. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Keisha. And again, go to supportissexypodcast.com to see the resources that she mentioned, to find out how to get in touch with her, and to follow her on social media. Again, supportissexypodcast.com, and just search Keisha. Keisha. Also, are you subscribed to the podcast? If not, make sure that you subscribe. This way you don't miss an episode. It will really help the podcast, and I will so appreciate it. So if you're on iTunes or Stitcher, make sure you subscribe to Support is Sexy so you don't miss a thing. So again, thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate you. So now you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.